Next on the news, migrants are rushing for the border as Title 42 is set to end soon. Agents are dealing with the influx with help from the Catholic Church. A Brooklyn parish says this sacred space can't be filled.
We honor that wound by not just glossing over it, not just sanitizing what happened.
It's been a year since a priceless tabernacle at St. Augustine Church was stolen. The Pope possibly making headway in his efforts for peace between Ukraine and Russia. A Vatican representative saying we could see results soon. Plus this.
The Lord just seemed to be watching out for these two old women because we didn't miss a flight, we didn't lose our luggage.
They went around the world in 80 days. These traveling grannies are proving age is just a number. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. A state of panic developing at the U.S.-Mexico border. 90,000 migrants crossing in the last 10 days alone. Just a preview of what's to come when Title 42 ends. It's a countdown to chaos. On May 11th, the Biden administration is now scrambling, launching additional processing centers in Central and South America. The White House is also deploying 1,500 troops. Meanwhile, cities across the country are running out of resources and running out of time. In El Paso, migrants are turning to the only place they feel safe, the sidewalk outside of Sacred Heart Church.
For now, it takes staying here until we can fix our papers, our documents, to be able to travel to our destination. It could be 2-3 days or a week or more.
Some say they've been here for days, enduring poor living conditions.
It's difficult to live on the street because it's very cold. Right now, we can't even sleep because it's too hot. We sleep on the street, on the floor.
To get here, some say they surrendered to Border Patrol. Others say they crossed through a hole in the fence.
We are confronted by a lot of obstacles because most of us have tried to do things legally. But the CBP One app is not working, so some have opted to pass through the holes.
When asked what its operations and regulations are for migrants congregating at the church, Border Patrol released this statement saying in part, CBP, which is responsible for securing the U.S. border between ports of entry, uses a layered approach that includes patrolling the border itself, nearby areas and neighborhoods, and conducting checkpoints, both stationary and temporary. It added agents conduct enforcement actions in accordance with Department of Homeland Security policy. However, there are protected areas that Border Patrol agents will have limited enforcement access. Some of those include schools, churches, and medical facilities. Still, CBP says when agents encounter a non-citizen migrant without proof they have entered the country legally, they will be detained and processed. Around 2,000 migrants are in El Paso at the moment. Many of them plan to stay there until their asylum applications are fully processed. And once that happens, many say they plan to move elsewhere. The U.S. bishops have been calling for immigration reform and the end of Title 42, which turns away migrants at the border because of COVID concerns. Bishop Mark Seitz, who leads the USCCB's Committee on Migration, recently released this statement on the matter, saying, quote, "No combination of legal pathways or harsh enforcement measures will suffice to meet the complex challenge of forced migration facing our country and hemisphere. Only through a long-term commitment to addressing root causes and promoting integral human development throughout the Americas, combined with an overhaul of our immigration system, will we be able to achieve the conditions necessary to sustainably reduce irregular migration." And as the situation becomes more dire, a growing number of migrants are being bused to New York City. 41 people arrived at Port Authority around 7 a.m. Wednesday morning. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has sent busloads of migrants to the Big Apple without any coordination with City Hall. And with more migrants expected to arrive in New York, city officials are getting more and more frustrated with the lack of government help. But there is some progress being made to deter illegal crossings. The U.S. and Mexico have agreed on new policies to implement before Title 42 expires, some of which include setting up centers in Mexico so people can apply to legally settle in the U.S. More security at the border, which includes 1,500 U.S. active duty troops, and Mexico will accept more migrants from Central and South America. Now to a news alert out of Atlanta, Georgia. Police are piecing together a shooting that took place Wednesday afternoon. At least one person is dead and 4 are hurt. Police are looking for suspected shooter Dion Patterson. The shooting took place at Atlanta Hospital, Northside Medical, Midtown. Officers are looking for Patterson and say he should be considered armed and dangerous.
In so many ways, this was something that was planned for a very, very long time.
It left a gaping hole in a nearly 200-year-old church and in the heart of its parishioners. Father Frank Tamino is still honoring a precious tabernacle 1 year after it was violently stolen from St. Augustine Church. It was a brazen crime with no evidence left behind. Father Tamino, pastor of the Park Slope Church, says it was a long time in the works to steal a gold and silver jewel-encrusted tabernacle worth millions from the sanctuary of his parish. Current News' Jessica Easthope joins us now to tell us what's happening nearly 1 year later. Jess.
Christine, Father Tamino says, thank God no one was there to see it happen, because if anyone would have stepped in to stop it, they would have been killed. That there was nothing standing in the way of the people who stole this church artifact. But nearly 1 year later, he's no closer to finding out who it was than he was hours after it happened early morning on May 28th, 2022.
You could still see the metal shavings that are all located in this place here.
He couldn't see it yet, but he could smell it.
I could smell the burning of the metal.
The shocking discovery plays over and over in Father Frank Tamino's head. A tabernacle holding the body of Christ was gone.
We believed that because it had been covered by a steel protector, a dome that was on it, we thought, we're safe, we don't have to worry about this. We were wrong.
Memorial Day weekend last year was the perfect opportunity. Everyone was out of the city. The tabernacle, worth millions. But that's not what made it extraordinary. In an age-old tradition, generations of parishioners at St. Augustine gave of their most valued jewelry.
Emeralds, that's an emerald, and there were various rubies.
Making up part of the tabernacle's ornate facade. That's where they thought it would be safest and enshrined forever. Priceless.
That the best place that their family jewelry could be would be in God's house. I was really just overwhelmed with how sad for them.
Nothing was left behind but shards of metal ground down to dust and chips of marble. No images, no frame of video. The criminals cut the internet to the church the week prior, and when they left with the tabernacle, they took the church's DVRs with them. Father Tamino hasn't yet cleaned up the debris. He and his church community are still grieving.
We honor that wound by not just glossing over it, not just sanitizing what happened.
Father Tamino says the investigation is still ongoing. He gets regular updates from police and hopes that the $50,000 reward might one day mean seeing the faces of those responsible.
Churches throughout history have been resilient, and it's only resilient because of our faith. You know, even though it's a year later, we'll get there.
Father Tamino says he knows in his heart the tabernacle will never be returned, but that he prays and is holding out hope the people responsible will be brought to justice. Christine?
Jess, I hear you keep saying people. Why is Father Tamino so confident it was more than one person?
Yes, this, Christine, was not a small job. Police say that they took a power saw to the area that was holding the tabernacle and the steel dome that was protecting it, that was built into the wall. That, this was something that would have been coordinated amongst several people, again, to cut the internet from the parish ahead of time, and that this is not something that was easy or simple. You know, they took all of the recordings with them even when they left.
Wow, Jess. And another question I have is, having had all these months to reflect on this, does Father Tamino believe this was religiously motivated?
Short answer, he doesn't. We spoke about the damage that this did emotionally to him and his parishioners, and that in and of itself is a testament to how indifferent we've become as a society. That the people who did this, whatever inherent respect or reverence there was for any faith is something that we've gotten so far away from.
All right. Thank you so much, Jess. Again, there's a $50,000 reward for anyone with information leading to the arrest of the person or people responsible for the theft of the tabernacle. If anyone knows anything about it, you can contact NYPD Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. The Tablet newspaper is reporting on a problem you've probably noticed in your neighborhood: graffiti. Some people are concerned that New York is moving backwards, hitting levels of graffiti not seen in the Big Apple since the 70s and 80s. The paper talks to a leader in one Queens neighborhood who says he's seen a drastic increase in the markings. Plus, the paper shows you just how bad some of those streets have gotten. You can read all these stories and more in this week's Tablet. Just pick up a copy of the paper at your local church this weekend. You can also get future editions sent straight to you by subscribing online at thetablet.org. The man accused of killing 5 people in Texas is facing 5 counts of murder. Francisco Oropeza was found after a tip came into the FBI. And as Gloria Pazmino reports, he could face the death penalty.
This is an unspeakable murder, unspeakable tragedy, but Mr. Oropeza will be held accountable.
Hiding in a closet underneath some laundry. That's how police say they found Francisco Oropeza, the man accused of killing 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, in Cleveland, Texas last Friday.
He's in this jail right here.
Witnesses say Oropeza opened fire after neighbors asked him to stop shooting his rifle near their home. After refusing, the man charged into his neighbor's home, killing 4 adults and a child. Oropeza, a 38-year-old Mexican national, is being held on 5 counts of murder with bond set at $5 million.
We just want to thank the person who had the courage and bravery to call in the suspect's location.
Police also arrested a woman who lived and shared a child with the suspect. Divimara Lamar Nava was arrested Tuesday and is facing charges of hindering the apprehension and detention of a known felon.
What we believe that Ms. Nava was doing is that she was providing him with material aid and encouragement, food, clothes, and had arranged transport to this house.
A second person was arrested under suspicion of helping Oropeza escape the neighborhood where the shooting took place. The suspects are expected to meet with the judge Wednesday to review charges and the terms of their detention.
I want to be able to look that family in the eyes and say that justice was done at the end of this.
Gloria Pazmino, Current News.
While people in Texas try to process this horrific murder, the Catholic Church is reaching out. Bishop David Toops of the Diocese of Beaumont said, quote, "It saddens me for the communities of Jasper and Cleveland that they now have to heal the wounds of doubt and fear in the hearts of all of our citizens. We need to work together and pray as a community to build a civilization of peace and hope with greater respect for the sanctity of all life." There's a lot more news headed your way. Pope Francis continues to push for peace as he meets with the Russian Orthodox envoy. Plus, Ukrainians are heading to the States for safety, only to have their American dream turn into a nightmare. And think you could travel for 80 days straight? Well, these 2 little old ladies did it. We talked to them about their journey coming up. In the midst of a secret peace mission, Pope Francis gave a warm welcome to the Russian Orthodox envoy. Metropolitan Anthony was in St. Peter's Square attending the Pope's weekly general audience. The two greeted each other before the pontiff was presented with an icon that he blessed. The two interacted as Francis reiterated that he will do whatever it takes to end the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And that secret peace mission could show results within the next few weeks, according to a close papal advisor. The Pope has reportedly been working on a plan for the last 8 months. On the way back from Hungary, Francis said, quote, "Right now, a mission is underway, but it is not yet public. When it is public, I will reveal it." Both the Ukrainian and Russian governments deny knowing about a mission of peace. Also tonight, they may have escaped the war, but they found a different hardship.
I thought America could help really more.
Next, on Currents News, Ukrainian refugees in New York struggling to survive. The American dream becoming a red tape nightmare. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians in the U.S. are now caught in immigration limbo, thanks to a Biden administration initiative that gives Ukrainians temporary protected status in the United States if a sponsor helps them with money and housing. Except some, like Stanislav Holyatuk, have never met their sponsors. He's trying to rebuild his life in the United States with nothing and no one. Currents News' Jessica Easthope reports on how he went from the war in Ukraine to homeless in the U.S.
We just moved so that waves won't come to our tent.
Coming from a country taken over by violence and destruction, Stanislav Holyatuk says anything is an upgrade.
It wasn't the worst part.
Even living in a tent under the boardwalk in Coney Island. That's where he spent his first 2 weeks in the United States. He's no longer living here, but he's still wondering if the dream he was sold about a full life in America will ever come true.
After war in Ukraine, actually, everything will be better. But I thought that America could help really more.
Stanislav and more than 117,000 other Ukrainians came under the Biden administration program Uniting for Ukraine. It allows Ukrainians to apply for temporary protected status as long as they have a sponsor giving them financial support. But Stanislav doesn't know his sponsor. He's a person he found on Facebook, a name used to get a ticket into America.
We understood that we will have maybe problems, so it was like an adventure for us.
But Stanislav says this new adventure quickly turned into a wild ride. And he's not on it alone.
They don't know anyone. They try to find out where to find the place and to live and to help to have some like financial support. And we will try to help all of them like this.
Irina Dobnia is the director of Catholic Charities of New York's Ukrainian Response Program. She said most of the Ukrainians her office helps have either never met their sponsor or were left stranded when the financial burden became too much.
The doors of our office are always open for them, but still we need a lot of help to help the people, because we are expecting this year, 2023, still like 15,000 newcomers from Ukraine.
As of this month, 300,000 Ukrainians have arrived in the United States under various programs. That number is higher than all other people from around the world combined admitted into the country's refugee program in the last 5 years. Stanislav said he couldn't stay to see the war play out, or worse, join the fight.
A lot of people think you must be at war. I don't know. I'm not a hero. I'm not a soldier. Heroes, Ukrainian soldiers, they're heroes. I'm not a hero.
Stanislav is a computer programmer by trade. Here, he can't find legal work and has no steady income. And without a credit score, he can't even rent an apartment. But he's not ready to give up.
It would be really cool if I could stay here, but for now, I don't believe that Ukrainians will allowed to stay here. But it's sad.
Irina is waiting for the state-funded USARA program, Ukraine's supplemental appropriation to resettlement agencies, to take off. She says it's a comprehensive and viable path for refugees.
Living in his own rented house and to have a job and to be self-sustained. This is the main aim of USARA.
Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Catholic Charities of New York is looking to help any Ukrainian refugees in need of aid. To contact them, simply go to ccccsny.org and search for refugee resettlement. Still to come on Currents News, 2 grannies on a worldwide mission. How these 2 81-year-olds went to every continent in 80 days. It began in Antarctica, their journey bringing them to every continent. 2 grannies taking the world by storm. In Europe, a stop in Italy to visit the Vatican. Then it was off to Finland to be amazed by the Northern Lights. A mission to travel the globe in 80 days. These 81-year-old besties were all smiles in Bali as their adventure brought them to Asia, and it didn't stop there. Their mission was accomplished. Sandy Hazliff and Ellie Hamby are back home in Texas, and they join us now to share their stories of adventure. Hi, ladies.
Hi, how are you? Hello, dear.
Good. So, Ellie, I want to start with you. I know you two decided to embark on this trip because it seemed like a fun thing to do, but traveling, sometimes it's not always fun. Canceled flights, delays, lost luggage, but you didn't experience any of that. Why do you think that is?
Well, we don't know because we've had previous trips where we've had some problems, but the Lord just seemed to be watching out for these two old women because we didn't miss a flight. We didn't lose our luggage. We had a little hiccup in going to Peru because of political unrest. We had to cancel at the last minute, but we just made other plans, go with the flow, trust the Lord's going to take care of you, and he sure did.
I love that. And Sandy, I know faith is important to both of you. You met on a mission trip. You mentioned God throughout the blog on your website. So did this trip help strengthen your faith at all?
Absolutely. Because truthfully, before this trip, for the last 3 years, I prayed daily, Father, if this trip is not your will, please close doors. Not only did he not close doors, but as Ellie just told you, everything went beautifully as clockwork. But the best part has been, we thought we were going on this trip just for ourselves. The Lord had other plans because we have been told by thousands upon thousands of people that we brought joy into their lives by their getting to follow us on this trip and just enjoy all of our adventure.
Well, I'm sure because it was so amazing. And Ellie, I know it took a lot of planning. You did it all on your own without a travel agent. So how did you decide to start in Antarctica?
Well, going around the world and going to all 7 continents, and there's only a small window of time you can go to the Antarctic. So we just went to the biggest one, the most difficult one first, and that was great. But it was fun planning the trip, and we're big budget hotel, but just big budget travelers. And our average hotel per night was $29 a person. So you can tell that it's possible, and we loved every place we stayed. They were beautiful, quaint little places, and you can travel on a budget if you put your mind to it.
Well, Ellie, I think people might be skeptical. $29 a night? Ooh, how was it doing that?
It was wonderful. We use an online company and a booking company, and we just look for location. Then we look for rating. You got to do have a good rating, and then we look for the budget. And it never failed us. We had the nicest places and the nicest people that we stayed with or around or at their end or whatever than you could ever imagine. It was just a blast.
All right, so you just have to do your homework. So Sandy, what would you say was the highlight of the trip and the most memorable stop?
Well, it was so beautiful. God's earth is so beautiful that he created. But the one that was the most memorable for me was to actually be there and be with and see the Northern Lights. Oh my gracious.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I think I would love to see that. And Ellie, what do you think? What was your favorite stop?
Oh, I loved Easter Island. Those Moai statues, they're just huge statues. They're magnificent. They're mysterious, and they really don't even know all the story behind those. And I just thought that's one of the most fascinating places on this earth to go to. It's very remote, but it was just a phenomenal place. Of course, we loved every place we went. We didn't have a bad experience with any place we went, but some stood out a little more than others.
Well, you are both amazing, and that trip looked amazing. I give you credit for all the planning and making everything work out. Sandy Hazliff and Ellie Hamby, we look forward to hearing about your next adventure.
Thank you very much.
And if you'd like to find out more about Ellie and Sandy's trip, you can check out their website, aroundtheworld@80.com. It is an amazing website. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.